2 Samuel 19. And it was reported to Joab, and see, the king is weeping and mourning for Absalom. So the deliverance that day was turned into mourning for all the people. For the people heard on that day, saying, the king has been grieved for his son. And the people stole back into the city that day, as people who are ashamed steal away when they flee in battle. And the king covered his face, and the king cried out with a loud voice, O my son Absalom, O Absalom, my son, my son. And Joab came into the house to the king and said, Today you have put to shame all your servants who today have delivered your life, and the lives of your sons and daughters, and the lives of your wives, and the lives of your concubines, by loving those who hate you, and by hating those who love you. For you have made it clear today that you have neither commanders nor servants. For today I know that if Absalom had lived, and all of us had died today, then it would be right in your eyes. And now arise, go out and speak to the heart of your servants. For I swear by Yahuah, if you do not go out, not one passes the night with you. And that is worse for you than all the evil that has come upon you from your youth until now. So the king rose up and sat in the gate. And they told all the people, saying, Look, the king is sitting in the gate. And all the people came before the king. As for Yisharal, they had fled, each one to his tent. And it came to be that all the people were contending throughout all the tribes of Yisharal, saying, The king delivered us from the hand of the enemies, he rescued us from the hand of the Philistine, and now he has fled from the land because of Absalom, and Absalom, whom we anointed over us, has died in battle. And now, why are you silent about bringing back the king? And King Daud sent to Zadok and Abiathar the priests, saying, Speak to the elders of Yehudah, saying, Why are you the last to bring the king back to his house, since the words of all Yisharal have come to the king to his house? You are my brothers, you are my bone and my flesh. Why then are you the last to bring back the king? And say to Amasa, Are you not my bone and my flesh? Elohim do so to me, and more also, if you are not commander of the army before me all the days in place of Joab. Thus he swayed the hearts of all the men of Yehudah as one man, so that they sent to the king, saying, Return, you and all your servants. So the king returned and came to the Yarden, and Yehudah came to Gilgal, to go to meet the king, to bring the king over the Yarden. And Shimei, son of Gera, a Binyamite, who was from Bakurim, hastened and came down with the men of Yehudah to meet King Daud. And with him were 1,000 men of Benjamin, and Seba the servant of the house of Shaul, and his 15 sons, and his 20 servants with him. And they rushed over the Yarden before the king. And they passed over the ford to bring over the king's household, and to do what was good in his eyes. And Shimei son of Gera fell down before the king when he had passed over the Yarden, and said to the king, Do not let my Adoni reckon lawlessness to me, neither remember what lawless your servant did on the day that my Adoni the king left Jerusalem, that the king should take it to heart. For I, your servant, know that I have sinned. And see, I have come today, first of all the house of Yusuf, to go down to meet my Adoni the king. But Abishai son of Zeruiah answered and said, Should Shimei not be put to death for this, because he cursed the anointed of Yahuah? And Daud said, What have I to do with you, you sons of Zeruiah, that you are to be adversaries to me today? Should any man be put to death in Yisharal today? For do I not know that I am king over Yisharal today? So the king said to Shimei, You do not die. And the king swore to him. And Mephibosheth son of Shaul came down to meet the king, and he had not attended to his feet, nor trimmed his mustache, nor washed his garments, from the day the king went away, until the day he came back in peace. And it came to be, when he had come to Jerusalem to meet the king, that the king said to him, Why did you not go with me, Mephibosheth? And he answered, My Adoni, O king, my servant deceived me, for your servant said, I am saddling a donkey for myself to ride on it and go to the king, because your servant is lame. And he spoke slander against your servant to my Adoni the king. But my Adoni the king is as a messenger of Elohim. Therefore do what is good in your eyes. For all of my father's house were but dead men before my Adoni the king. Yet you set your servant among those who eat at your own table. Therefore what right have I still to cry out any more to the king?" Then the king said to him, "Why do you speak any more of your matters? I have said, you and Seba share the land." And Mephibosheth said to the king, "Rather let him take it all, since my Adoni the king has come back in peace to his own house." And Barzillai the Gileadite came down from Rogelim and passed over the Yarden with the king to send him on his way over the Yarden. And Barzillai was a very aged man, 80 years old. And he had sustained the king while he was dwelling at Machanaim, for he was a very rich man. And the king said to Barzillai, "Pass over with me, and I shall provide for you with me in Jerusalem." But Barzillai said to the king, "How many are the days of my life that I should go up with the king to Jerusalem? I am now 80 years old. Do I discern between the good and evil? Does your servant taste what I eat or what I drink? Do I still hear the voice of singing men and singing women? Why then should your servant be a further burden to my Adoni the king? Your servant would only pass over the Yarden with the king for a short distance. And why should the king repay me with such a reward? Please let your servant turn back again to die in my own city, near the burying place of my father and mother. But here is your servant Kimham. Let him pass over with my Adoni the king, and do for him what is good in your eyes." And the king answered, "Kimham is passing over with me, and let me do for him what is good in your eyes. Now whatever you choose of me, I do for you." Then all the people went over the Yarden. And when the king had passed over, the king kissed Barzillai and blessed him, and he returned to his own place. And the king passed over to Gilgal, and Kimham passed over with him. And all the people of Yehudah brought the king over, and also half the people of Yisharal. And see, all the men of Yisharal were coming to the king. And they said to the king, "Why have our brothers, the men of Yehudah, stolen you away, and brought the king and his household, and all Daud's men with him over the Yarden?" And all the men of Yehudah answered the men of Yisharal, "Because the king is our relative. And why are you displeased over this matter? Have we at all eaten at the king's cost, or has he given us any gift?" And the men of Yisharal answered the men of Yehudah, and said, "We have 10 parts in the king, and endowed too we have more than you. Why then did you despise us? Was it not our advice first to bring back our king?" But the words of the men of Yehudah were harsher than the words of the men of Yisharal.